Hello, my musical theater friends, and welcome to Thursday Thoughts. For today's Thursday Thoughts, we're talking about Santa Fe from Newsies, and specifically about the film version versus the Broadway version, and some differences and some things that might come up. This is great for you if you are a singer who wants to sing one of these, if you are a teacher who wants to assign one of these but you're not as familiar with the song, or if you just want to learn a little bit more about how these songs are different from each other. So I'm going to be breaking down this discussion into three areas. The first one is the text and the drama behind it. The second one is the transposition and the key. And the third one is some of the differences in sort of how it sits, what we would call tessitura, or just sort of who should be singing it, what voice type, all that sort of stuff. So for the text and the drama, these are very different songs. Even though they're the same tune, some of the lyrics are the same, they're totally different songs. In the movie, Jack has just gone he's reflecting on Davy and Les's family, and he's talking about his dreams based on the observation that he doesn't have a family, and that these are his dreams. In the Broadway show, on the other hand, it's a totally different thing. Jack has just escaped from a riot gone bad, like a protest turned into a riot. Police are beating up and arresting all of his friends, and he's managed to escape. There's a certain part of him, I'm sure, that sees himself as a coward for not staying and helping, but he runs away, and it's much darker. It's much darker. And we can see that in the text. I mean, in the film, it begins, the verse begins, folks, we find, that's the Broadway show. In the film, the verse begins, so that's what they call a family. Mother, daughter, father, son. Guess that everything you heard about is true. So you ain't got any family. Well, who said you needed one? Ain't you glad nobody's waiting up for you? Whereas in the musical, folks, we finally got a headline. Newsies crushed as bulls attack. Crutchy's calling me dumb, Crip's just too damn slow. Now, I should also mention some of the language, and this is covered if you ever do the show in the rehearsal guide. Some of the language here is meant deliberately to be authentic to the time period, and although language has evolved in the last 120 years, the writers thought that it would be much better for impact to keep some of the authentic language, even though it makes us cringe a little bit with the modern connotations. So, on fighting, bleeding, falling, thanks to good old Captain Jack. There's some cynicism there, right? There's some sarcasm, yes, definitely darkness. Captain Jack just wants to close his eyes and go. And so the remainder of, even though they're both I wish, I want songs, dream songs, the remainder of this song is, in the Broadway version, is an escape. I want to get out of here. Let me go somewhere they won't ever find me, and tomorrow won't remind me of today. It's getting out of here. Whereas in the film, when I dream on my own, I'm alone, but I ain't lonely. For a dreamer, night's the only time of day. It's more subtle. It's more, I mean, they're both I want songs. They're both incredible sentiments, but for the Broadway one, it's like a lashing out anger, and in the film, it's more sort of contemplative. And I think if you are a singer or a teacher who's looking at assigning this song, that's one of the areas where you can kind of decide: do you want a contemplative that more inward song, or are you looking more for a lashing out anger kind of song? However, it doesn't stop there, and we get into number 2, which is the key, the transposition. I mean, ultimately, melodically, there's a bit of a difference in the accompaniment, but melodically, these are the identical songs, except except for the film, there is it starts in B flat and stays in B flat, and in the movie it starts in C and actually goes up to D, and so I think this is as good a time as any to point out that the Singers Musical Theater Anthology, which is a fabulous book series. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I just think that they're a really great resource for musical theater singers. Classifies the film version as a baritone bass song. It's in volume 3, and the Broadway version as a tenor song, and that I believe is in volume 6. I don't have the tenor anthology, but I'm using it from a different source. But so I already we have this sort of difference in voice type. Just to give you an idea of what that sounds like. So that what they call a family, mother, daughter, father, son, guess that everything you heard about is true. That's the opening. And I am not a tenor, so yeah, we're gonna have fun with the Broadway version here. Folks, we finally got a headline. Newsies crushed as Bulls attack. Crutchy's calling me dumb, just them slow. And then it really comes together because Santa Fe, the sort of defining feature from a technical perspective of this song is that seventh jump at the beginning of the chorus. In the Broadway, let me go far away, and there's that. So that's in the Broadway that sits on an E, and I think if you have anyone who has a break on an E, if you have difficulty singing an E because of transitions in your voice, that's going to be, the Broadway key is going to be problematic, no matter what voice type you are. Similarly, if you have any sort of break or transition on a D, which is where the film sits, when I dream I'm alone, I'm alone, but I ain't lonely. If you're sitting on the D and that's difficult for you, that's not necessarily the healthiest for you to be singing. Now, with regards to key, we also need to talk about overall range. In the film, the range goes from a low B flat to a high F. It's an octave and a fifth. Because of the key change, though, in the Broadway show, the overall range goes from a C to a high A. And this is a transition into the third topic. If you don't have that high A, there's two of them, then really the Broadway version is not for you. I don't have that high A, so I'm not going to be singing that today at the end of this video. So that gets us into the third topic, which is sort of the differences in the placement and the tessitura. Because of the anger that is so present in the Broadway version, it's in a higher key, it's more explosive, it generally requires and gives more energy, more explosion. And so it also needs to propel us. It's the Act 1 finale. It needs to propel us through into the intermission and provide us that slightly different sort of energy. So after the key change, Santa Fe, my old friend. This is the Broadway version. I can't spend my whole life dreaming, though I know that's all I seem inclined to do. It's higher. It's more forward, and it sits. That F sharp just comes back and again, and we go below and above, and there's just so much more that we need to keep in mind technically and in terms of moving through the ranges that's required there. For the Broadway version, it's less of an issue with the film version. And then we've got the very end. Let him laugh in my face, I don't care, save my place, I'll be there. There's something about that being well above the second break in the Broadway version that doesn't happen in the same way in the film version. It's the same. I don't care, save my place. That doesn't happen. It's not as it's passion, but it doesn't have the same sort of explosive energy. And then the ending, of course, the text is completely different. Painting in my head, 'cause I'm dead if I can't count on you today. And this final phrase, I got nothing if I ain't got Santa Fe. And we have 3 whole bars of a high A. If you or your young gentleman student or whoever is considering singing this doesn't have that, in terms of singing it out of context, it's different if you're doing the show and you need to make some modifications because otherwise, you know, your perfect Jack just doesn't have the A. That's a different thing. I'm talking about singing this out of context. But if you want to sing this song and you don't have that high A at the end, sorry, you should try and work up to that high A, or you may not have it, in which case you should do the film version. The film version ends much more subtly, much more calmly. So that's what they call a family. Ain't you glad you ain't that way? Ain't you glad you got a dream called Santa Fe? It's a very, very different kind of ending. It comes at a different point in the story. It comes as a result of different circumstances. So I hope this has given you a bit of an insight into the 2 versions. I'm going to sing just the film version today. I don't have the upper range for the Broadway version. So that's what they call a family. Mother, daughter, father, son. Guess that everything you heard about is true. So you ain't got any family. Well, who said you needed one? Ain't you glad nobody's waiting up for you? When I dream on my own, I'm alone, but I ain't lonely. For a dreamer, night's the only time of day. When the city's finally sleeping, and my thoughts begin to stray, and I'm on the train that's bound for Santa Fe. And I'm free like the wind, like I'm gonna live forever. It's a feeling time can never take away. All I need's a few more dollars, and I'm out of here to stay. Dreams come true, yes they do, in Santa Fe. break. Why should you only take what you're given? Why should you spend your whole life living trapped where there ain't no future? Even at 17, paving back for someone else's sake. If the life don't seem to suit ya, how about a change of scene? Far from the lousy headlines and the bread lines in between. Santa Fe, are you there? I swear you won't forget me. If I found you, would you let me come and stay? I ain't getting any younger, and before my dying day, I want space in the air. Let him laugh in my face, I don't care. Save a place, I'll be there. So that's what they call a family. Aren't you glad you ain't that way? Ain't you glad you got a dream called Santa Fe? Thank you so much for watching my video today. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like, leave a comment if you have something to add to the conversation, and please consider subscribing to my channel. I have these Thursday Thoughts videos. I have Mashup Mondays, which are coming due soon. I'm going to be starting very soon. I'm going to be starting a Top 10 Tuesdays series, and then also my Fitness Fridays and Sing Along Sundays. I'm aiming for about one video a week, give or take, in one of those areas, and then over time, we'll see what happens. Thanks so much. Have a wonderful day.